Hey everyone, it's Brendan here from 12 Gigs in 12 Months. The Bleak Squad, Princess Theatre, Thursday, 30th of July 2026. And man, it was a pretty cool gig. Support band, Screamfeeder, ever reliable. Kelly singing most of the lead vocals at this gig. And the first time I saw Screamfeeder would have been in the 90s in the Valley. They were supporting I Think You Am I, and man, that's 30 plus years of seeing them rock out. They've got this fuzzy pop rock distorted guitar sound. They've got a male and a female vocalist, and if you haven't heard them or haven't seen them, just jump on iTunes or Spotify and check them out. Then we went on to the main act. Yeah, the Bleak Squad. Okay, I listened to the album Strange Love, which was released in 2025, so I was well prepared for the gig and rolled up. And the first thing was lead vocals, Adalita from Magic Dirt, playing this really cool SG Gibson, and I think interchanging between the brown wood grain finished guitar and the other red guitar, which I think might have been an SG, sounded fantastic. Adalita's vocals were spot on. They're really good on the record and really good live as well. And she's got a commanding presence on stage. Almost, it was a little bit otherworldly with the lighting and everything like that, which is what I think part of the Bleak Squad sound, the moody elements. But I'm quick to add that when I heard the name Bleak Squad, I thought, do I really want to expose myself to potentially depressing music? It's not. The music is not bleak and depressing. The music's actually, a lot of the songs start quietly and they build and rise. The songs aren't overly complicated, but there is some amazing musicianship on the songs and some really great vocals. But the essence of the song is very accessible to the average listener. Adalita, I saw Magic Dirt in the 90s as well. I went to some Melbourne university with some friends, and I Think You Am I were also on the bill that night. And the best way to describe Magic Dirt is really dirty, fuzzy, distorted guitars, a very noisy band. However, as their career went on, they also had some catchier sort of pop hits as well, which were probably more accessible, more radio friendly as well. So it was great after that period of time to see Adalita out the front of this new rock act. And I was thinking to myself when I was sitting there, how amazing it is that someone could actually still be rocking out from the 90s through to now. And as I said, it's a real credit, because some people tried to get somewhere in music and didn't do it and ended up having to get normal everyday jobs and all that sort of stuff. So to actually be a survivor in that rock world, that's mighty impressive. The other thing too that I just was reflecting on as I was watching the performance was the first time I was struck by a female vocalist who really blew my socks off. I was on the Sunshine Coast and we were watching the Hoodoo Gurus, and again, it would have been in the 90s at some point in time. And they were really at the top of their game during that period. Probably the third album would have been out by then. So we're talking What's My Scene and all those sorts of songs, like Wow, Wipeout and everything. And we were big fans. And during one of the encores, they got up out the crowd or wherever was Chrissy Amplet from the Divinals. And she got up, and my memory tells me that she did the Easy Beats I'll Make You Happy. And she just stood there, full guns a-blazing, and delivered a really amazing vocal performance, and then just basically walked off stage. And the Divinals were on the radio a lot during the 80s and the 90s, and had lots of videos and all that. And sometimes there was chatter about provocative songs and lyrics and all that sort of stuff. And like, I was into Hunters and Collectors and Midnight, all that sort of stuff. So I didn't really pay, close attention, but I was aware of it. But when I saw that performance, it made me appreciate her. It made me appreciate the band. And then as time has gone on and I every now and then I would hear one of those Divinal songs come up. I thought, man, they're really well recorded and really well constructed songs. So these Aussie female lead vocalists are a real treasure to the industry, and really churn out some great performances and some great art. I just made a very quick brainstorming list of other artists who came to mind, so it's probably ones I forget as well. But for those of you who love music and have music nerdism, the curse of music nerdism, if you like, or the gift, Deb Conway, I remember her being really big in my musical journey. The Clouds, they're kind of like one of the early indie bands that came through. Christine Arnoux, I remember she got a lot of airplay for a while there, and the song that probably most people know is My Island Home. Kylie Minogue was always an interesting one because she came from Neighbours, and then she had the Scott Aitken Waterman treatment and brought out those pop singles, which they're not great. But then she made that bold move to go into the indie world and did the duet with Nick Cave, and then I think Triple J started playing her music then, and then she just went on a whole different tangent, and a career went off. And the song that I remember she brought out that I thought was just amazing and had an amazing video clip was I Just Can't Get You Out of My Head. If you haven't seen that video clip, that's a good one to YouTube and watch. And then there were other bands that I brainstormed and remembered, like Frente, like a really quirky kind of Melbourne band. Baby Animals had Susie DiMarchi out front, and they weren't in that new wave of grunge-inspired indie alternative. They were more like your actual rock band. Sort of had like an American feel, big production, flashy video clips, all that sort of stuff. But the song that every now and then sort of comes up on stations like Triple J is, what was the song I remembered? Early Warning and One Word. And then a band that just toured recently, I didn't see them, but Spiderbait, again, more than one vocalist in the band, but Janet from Spiderbait, and then Killing Heidi, because Ella Hooper was out the front of them, and they did really well on, I remember Triple J Unearthed. They were one of the bands that did really well out of Unearthed. The other artists that I got to see up at Bribey Island, one of those sort of gigs where they get a whole lot of acts from the 90s and so forth, were the Super Jesus, and Sarah McLeod was out the front of them, and she was electric. She was jumping around and everything and belting out tunes. And I had a new appreciation for her as a performer. So then we went on, and then if you're moving into the 90s, I remember there was the Veronicas, Katie Noonan, etc. So that was sort of moving into a different phase as well. But as I say, for the music lovers out there, if you haven't heard of any of those acts, there's something you could check out while you're driving along in your car and, down the M1 or whatever, just suss it out. So yeah, really, really solid performance, great vocals, beautiful guitar, nice tones. And then we move on to the second member of the band, Mick Harvey. And Mick Harvey is someone from the Australian rock music scene who has been around since the 70s. And I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately on bands like The Saints, Radio Birdman, The Go-Betweens. Well, Mick Harvey was in a band called The Birthday Party with Nick Cave in that era, and they were all in London about the same time. It was around the sort of early to mid 80s. The Triffids is another one. Sorry, forgot them as well. There would have the Moodists was another one, but I'm sure there were other bands around that time that I'm just forgetting at the moment. So he's been on that Nick Cave journey as well, PJ Harvey, and a ridiculously talented musician. He was on the bass guitar, then he was on the drums, then he was on the keyboards, then he was on the guitar, and then just to top it off, he was doing some vocals as well. So this guy can do it all. And as I was standing there appreciating Adalita's journey, I was also thinking, man, this guy would have seen some things in his time as well. So that was a real privilege to be at a gig where these people are just up on stage performing, thinking, Yeah, that's really impressive. I had the same feeling when I went to see Peter Garrett and he had Martin Rotzi on guitar, and I was thinking, man, I remember seeing the Oils back in the 80s, and like they're up there still doing their thing, you know. And then after Rob Hurst passed away, I thought to myself, okay, next time Pete comes, I'm going, because while the chance to see someone who has had a big impact on my life, I've got to be there. So then we go on to the next member of the band, and that's Mick Turner, who was in the Moodus, and also a member of the Dirty Three. If you haven't listened to the Dirty Three, that's definitely a good band to check out. Then the fourth member of the band on the drums was somewhat younger, Marty Brown, and from an indie rock band called The Art of Fighting. And one of the things that's really good about going to see a gig like this is when you see the band and then you see all the members on stage, after you see a gig like that, you come home and then you look up, you know, all the videos and read about all the bands and everything. And so I've been enjoying getting back into The Art of Fighting after not hearing their music for a while. So that's another band to consider. The songs that I like the best, now I don't take notes at the gigs, so you know, you've got your album listening and then you've got your live, but I was thinking every song got performed there, so I can't remember if I forgot anything or not. But Blue Signs is a song I really like. Lost My Head, World Go to Hell, and Let Go of Love. But honestly, these guys are really proficient. All the songs are actually good, and they really, I mean, this is not their first rodeo. They know how to play, they know how to perform, and it was a really enjoyable show. So check out the Bleak Squad, getting out, enjoying music, enjoying hanging out with friends. Nothing like a midweek gig to break up the working week as well.